You are live. Woohoo. Right. Test it works. Boom, boom. Good. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thanks for turning up in person. Isn't it great to be back? So we'll be back. You'll notice that we've got pizza, but we've also got socks and a little book from Microsoft as well, which is fantastic. That's unexpected. So that's really, really good. So tonight, talking about SEO basics. It's usually a pretty wide topic, pretty popular topic we talk about. Some quick housekeeping. If you don't already been here before, haven't been here before, toilets are just out by reception. So if you need to go, just go. Some thank you to our sponsors. So these guys put money in a kitty every month or every 6 months, and they allow us to have pizzas and stuff like that. So we've got Kinetics, we've got WP Engine, and we've got Plesk, WordPress, of course, and Microsoft for the venue. And they'll kind of help out with these meetups. They do actually support us quite a lot as a community. So just go and have a look at their website, see what they offer, and give them a round of applause. Thank you, guys. I am looking for people to help build up the community and organize the WordPress meetups. I know I've had a couple of offers from people. Sorry, I've not responded to emails. I've been a bit sick over the last couple of weeks, but I will get to that. But if you are interested in helping out as an organizer, then you just get in contact with me through the meetup group, through the Facebook page, or through one of my websites. Okay, now let's hand it over to you guys. There's not a lot of people here. So if you want to introduce yourself, just tell us who you are and what you do with WordPress. That'd be great. I'll start off. So my name is Will. I've been an organizer for this meetup group since 2012. I'm a back-end developer, if that's such a thing. So I tend to integrate WordPress with third-party systems using things like Automate Woo, Integromat, Zapier, or third-party APIs, and I write the stuff myself. So I connect WordPress with other systems. That's my specialty. So would anyone else like to introduce themselves and what they do? You don't have to. Yes?
My name is Michael Dowie. I have recently joined a company called WPSyd Digital. And for me, it's rejoining the digital industry after leaving it in 2007. Spent 10 years away and 10 years away coming back. My role is head of sales and marketing, and WPSyd Digital are WordPress experts. So we're an agency that specialises in dev. We actually have no creative capability in-house, so we are like a digital agency for agents.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks for coming along. Anyone else?
Yeah, my name is Anne. I must say, I start with the WordPress is from you. It's each and every step is from you. So far, I've built 5 websites.
Awesome.
For my business and for my husband's business. So I didn't exactly, keep up with the new things, but I like to keep learning with you. I went back to 4 or 5 years ago, even start from selected domain and how to create your selected domain, which is reflected your business nature or something. I'm very grateful, you organize this book, and I learned from zero. I don't have any coding skills, but along this way, I learned a little bit of coding myself. Yeah.
That's great. You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm John. This sounds like an AA meeting.
It does, yeah.
I'm a broadcast engineer, but before that, a long time in the IT industry, and I'm a serial volunteer, so I tend to end up running the websites for the organisations for where I'm on the leadership team. So currently running one site. Have run this. Love WordPress.
Good to have you here, John. Anyone else? In the middle, yeah.
I'm Zach. I work at Blackbird as a no-code developer, which is a new industry. And on the side, I've got a product comparison website focusing on hiking gear.
So no code.
No code, yeah.
I love that.
My website's on WordPress, which is 1 year. So.
I think that's great. I think it's definitely the way things are going to go. And there's a huge amount of people who are, they've got the talent, they've got the business, they've got the ideas, they don't want to get involved in code. They just want to build something, get it out there. And I think that's definitely the way that WordPress is probably going towards Anyway, so yeah, great to hear. The back.
I'm Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Not much of a coder at all. I have my own coaching business, and I have 2 websites for that. I've used WordPress for them. I don't do anything too fancy, but I managed to kind of, it was very slow, and I increased the speed and all that sort of hacking. And that's kind of the level I'm at. And I'm also interested in better SEO.
Everyone is. Anyone else like to introduce themselves? Yeah.
My name is Emilio. I've been involved with WordPress Sydney many years. I don't remember a little way back when we were on great meetups at Livewire.
Oh, yes. Wow. Fibewire.
So I'm in the marketing industry. We use WordPress for campaign websites. It's a great one.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for coming along. I really wanted to reboot the community. So over the last 2 years, obviously pandemic, the community's kind of dispersed, they've been at home. But I think most of the value from these meetup groups come from meeting up. So thank you very much for turning up. A lot of my business colleagues, I've been in Sydney now since 2012. A lot of my business colleagues have been from the meetup groups. Some of my close friends are from the meetup groups. So it might be a little bit left wing if you like kind of go out to a couple of meetup groups, but you're really kind of building up your future, building up your future contacts, your future business people. There's people in the room as well. So for example, you're saying you don't have any in-house design. Yeah, I mean, this community, there's designers out there. So this is the reason that we're networking. Now, obviously we've taken a big hit with COVID last couple of years. So this is the WordPress community just now. So welcome. And we're just going to try and slowly build it up again to the numbers that we had a couple of years ago. So we're getting about 60, 70 people up for meetups. And we'd like to get to that again, but it's going to be a slow process. But thank you very much for coming along and starting it off. Okay, let's jump into what you're here for. So it's SEO today. Okay, so let's go right back to the beginnings. I've got some notes here just in case I lose my way. Right back to the beginning. To define what search engine optimization is and what it isn't. Because I know there's probably some people here that know what it is, but there might be some people who are kind of starting at the beginning. Okay, so what it is, it's using the organics, that's the free listings, to promote traffic and drive traffic to your website. That's what SEO is. That's what we talk about when we talk about SEO. What it is not is using paid adverts or any kind of marketing service you have to pay to drive traffic to your website. So this is what SEO is. It's trying to get your website up into that organic area of the search engine. This is Lily. We just bought her a couple of months ago. She's a little kitten. The reason why I'm putting that here is that before we got Lily, I did a whole lot of research on Google about cats and cat litter and cat trays and everything cat related. So I've actually used that to develop an SEO course, which we'll be launching a little bit later on. And it's got heaps more cat references. But this is a reason why you'll probably see some cat related searches and stuff in here. So blame Lily, not me. Okay, so let's start. So when you're doing a search on Google, what you're going to see, this one here is for kitty litter. And this is a very, very typical search results page that comes back. So we call it a search engine result page. Some people, you'll just skip it, just say a SERP, but that's what it means, a search engine results page. We're only really interested in page 1. Now, up here you can see it says it found 17,400,000 references to kitty litter, but generally people don't really go past page 1 of any search engine. So this is what you're looking at. This is what you're trying to get onto the first page. Now, this is fairly typical. It might change a little bit with yours because Google's went in, all the search engines are way to kind of personalized searches. So you might see stuff that pop up near you. But in general, this is kind of what you're going to see. So at the top, you've got your paid results, your paid ads. So you've got like pet barn and stuff. And then you've got your ads down the bottom as well. You might get 1, you might get 2, you might get 3, you might get 4. But what it does do, it actually pushes the organic results. And these are the ones that we care about with SEO. So you can see the first one here that's our first organic result here. So that's the first website that's appearing on this search that they've not paid to get it onto there. And this is what we're trying to concentrate on here. Here's another one. So again, this one is flights to Gold Coast. And what we can see here for the search engine results page is we've got paid ads again. So paid ads are always going to be up there because people are paying the money for it. But this time, we've got something called a Google featured snippet. And these things appear depending on your search. They could be flights, they could be song lyrics, they could be recipes. And what it basically is Google scraping the information from other people's websites and presenting it as valued information. It's also called a zero click, okay, because obviously your first click is your organic one. So people are calling this a zero click or a featured Google snippet. Now you can't really do anything about the ads. You can't do anything about the Google snippets. And in fact, you could get 4 or 5. You could get videos under there. You could get a recipe under there. And then you've got your organic results right at the bottom. And sometimes it can actually push those organic results down below the fold. Okay, so SEO is really, really difficult. And it's getting even more difficult the more Google tries to cram into that homepage. And so that's the state of affairs. We can't do much about it. So why am I talking about Google? Well, the ACCC, they did a report, an interim report last year, 2021, and they surveyed, I think it was 2 or 5 million people, and they found that Google has a 94% search dominance here in Australia. Okay, so 94% of people use Google. And they found that was because people, when they buy a mobile device or a tablet, they generally don't change the default browser, and they generally don't change the default search engine if it's for whatever browser. And most of those are Google. Okay? So if you're looking at doing SEO, the best place to start is Google, because that's where most of the searches are. Now, saying that, there are other search engines around. So here's an example. So one called DuckDuckGo. Now, obviously with a 94% dominance, you've got 6% of everything else splattered across all the other web browsers. However, there might be some instances where you don't want to optimize for Google first. So for example, if your target audience are kind of die-hard privacy buffs, they're probably not going to touch Google. They're probably not going to touch Bing. They're probably going to go DuckDuckGo, because DuckDuckGo promotes itself as a privacy search engine. They don't track as much stuff as Google. So depending on who your target audience is for your websites, you might want to reevaluate which one you target first. Another one would be if your target audience is die-hard Windows users or Microsoft users. You know, they're probably more likely going to be on Bing for that. So you've got a larger percentage of chance of converting them on Bing than maybe you would on Google. Even though Google's got that huge dominance, you know, you've got to really look where your target market is. So don't discount the other browsers, but definitely for the majority's sake, probably going to start on Google. Okay, now, nobody except people who work in these companies, in Google and Microsoft, in the Bing and the Google search teams, nobody but a few people who are locked in an office and not allowed out ever, know exactly what the Google algorithm is. It's a secret sauce. Okay, so if anyone says to you, and they don't work in these places, if anyone says to you that they know what the algorithm is, then they're pretty much lying. Or if they are from Google or Microsoft and they tell you, then they'll probably get fired tomorrow and that'll change. Anyway, so nobody knows exactly how Google takes all this information and presents it in those search engine results lists. And the reason is they don't want this. So remember 10 years ago when people started to do keyword stuffing? So this is it's just horrible. So obviously someone's keyword stuff for cheap flights. It doesn't read very well, but back then, Google and the other search engines, they kind of just looked for keywords. So people found this technique and they were going up to number 1. Now, if you do this, you'll pretty much get booted and down to number 10 or off Google entirely. So please don't do keyword stuffing because it's a really, really bad thing to do. Okay, so we don't know exactly what the algorithms are for these search engines. However, there's a lot of clever people who have done lots of analysis and they've kind of guessed at what might be important. Okay, so these are some of them. These are my top 10 that I've taken at looking for all the analysis for people and what they say is important. Now, this list isn't in any particular order. It's in my order. It's not in the order of greatness. So if you do the first one, you're not going to jump onto number 1. But it's in the order of what I think I can achieve with the most results and the most use of my time. So the first one is secure sites, HTTPS. It might be a small ranking signal, but I can do that super fast. I can do that in 10 minutes. So that's a tick. Okay, so I can get that one out of the way. Okay, because if you don't have your entire website on HTTPS, Google have said that it is a signal. They don't tell you which signal, but if you don't have your an SSL on your website and one of your competitors does, they're going to get a slight advantage over you. Mobile friendly, that is a huge one. Just in the past couple of years, Google have stated that they are looking at mobile first when they're evaluating sites, because more people are looking at the search engines through mobile devices, so it is that important. So if your site isn't mobile friendly, then that's something you might want to look at as to help and improve your search results for those. If you're looking to get stats from those, your two best friends are Google Analytics and Google Search Console. Every website you do, every client website you make, every one of your personal websites, definitely link up those two, because they've both got different metrics. So Google Search Console can tell you about all the errors that they've found with like mobile sites. Maybe your buttons are going over, or the text isn't so great, or you've got two buttons too close together, and people with big thumbs can't do it. That's the sort of stuff that Google is measuring for your mobile friendliness. So you want to make sure you get Google Analytics and Google Search Console and have a look at the metrics for both of those. Obviously fast, we want to have fast stuff. So page loading speed is a huge factor in ranking for that. So make sure your websites run really, really fast. Ideally under 2 seconds for most pages or your important pages. Anything over 2 seconds is kind of considered, nah. If you're going over 5 seconds, that's pretty unacceptable nowadays. Quality of content and length as well. We'll talk a little bit about length later on, but definitely the website quality. It needs to be relevant for your target audience. It needs to be relevant for Google to see. If you're just pumping out content for the sake of content, it's not going to benefit your SEO. So you really need to have good quality content that's speaking to your target audience. Social signals, quality backlinks, so backlinking, again, optimized images, and that goes again to page loading speed, so that's quite important. Schema markup. You might not have heard of schema markup, but this is a part of what you used to call the semantic web. So it's a way of allowing the search engines or computers to understand bits of data. So for example, a video embedded on your web page would have a video schema, so that Google would know, the URL, the thumbnail, the title, the author, the date, that kind of important data that it can then scrape and index for that, just rather than being just embedded in the page. So there's lots of different schemas. So there's videos, there's events, there's recipes, there's authors, there's companies. You can look them up. But Google and the other search engines, they're paying more attention to this structured type of data. So if you can embed it in your website, it's probably a good thing to be doing, especially if you are in one of these schema markups like recipes or things like that. And the last one is user experience. And that just really means how the users can navigate through your site, how they can find your content, how they can get to this stuff. That's all measured, and it's all, as I say, more intelligent people than I have said that these are kind of big things that are likely to be in the ranking Google algorithms. Okay. So what does SEO actually look like on the ground? So you want to be focusing on 3 major things, or 3 core elements of SEO. First one is technical. So that's how your website is structured. So that's your H1 tags, your H2 tags, your paragraphs, the way that your content is structured and laid out. It needs to be optimized. It needs to be readable by Google and the search engines. The second one is content. So that's the words, the pictures, all the content from your posts and pages. And then the third one is links, and that's backlinks from other websites back to you. So these are all important things. So if you don't have your technical SEO, if your website's a bit of a mess and Google can't understand, the format of your post, then it's not going to be able to apply that into the results because it won't understand what the context is with that. And again, links, backlinking or a link generation is a huge factor, and it's really difficult to do link building as well, because you're obviously trying to get links into your content, is key, but it's so difficult. So the majority of this talk, I'm just going to be concentrating on content, because that's kind of the easiest thing for most people to get into. Okay, just flick here. So Google and the other search engines, they are looking for humanized content. So what we mean by that is content that you would be writing just like you're having a conversation with someone. Google's looking for that particular stuff. You might get offers from people to write articles on your website with a backlink, or you maybe offer to do 4 or 5 articles to help you out. You really want to be sampling their content. If that's something that you want to do, if you want to farm out to a copywriter, you need to get sample of their content and just try and see how readable it is. So just writing content to target keywords is probably going to penalize you more than than actually writing a human content, content that relates to humans. So don't just write content for the sake of putting in your keywords that you want to rank for your target audience. Actually write the content as if you're speaking to someone one-to-one. If they ask you a question, how would you then have a conversation with them? And that's the way that Google is going. They like this humanized content. They like the idea that it's unique, because no two people answer the same question the same way, and that's what Google likes. So it's looking for that uniqueness. It's looking for that characterization for that. So if you are writing content for your websites, and that's landing pages, it could be blog posts and your content pages, just make sure it's humanized. Make sure it reads well and it's conversational as well. Okay, so when we're talking about content, we're kind of jumping over into the kind of the copywriting area here. So SEO copywriting. So to understand what copywriting is, I'm pulling out a little quote from our Australian copyright expert, Kate Toon. I don't know if you've never met Kate Toon, but she's big in Australia. She's like got this huge SEO business running, so she's very famous. And she says, SEO copywriting, it helps us target relevant customers, solve their specific problems with well-crafted content. And that's exactly kind of what I was saying. It's got to be good content. It's got to be well-crafted content. It's got to target your audience as well. Don't just write content just to fill up your webpage. Make sure it's actually talking directly to your target audience and your target market as well. And we're starting to get into the specifics here. So when it says solve their specific problems, then if you take a step back, if you don't know your target audience, you don't know who they are, then you really should be building up some information on that. Things like buyer personas, ideal client personas. Find out who they are, what their demographics are, their age, where they hang out, what their likes are, what their dislikes are, what problems they're having, what aspirations they want. That's the sort of content that people are looking for, how to solve their problems. So here's what your customers are looking for. The 2 big things, if you really want to know how to get started writing content, if you're a bit stuck, these are the 2 biggest areas that you can get into. Identify all the problems of your target audience, and identify all their aspirations, and write content to help them for that. Just choose one topic per post or blog, wherever you do. Don't kind of go all over the place, but just try and stick with one problem, and then your knowledge on how to help them, or one aspiration, how you can make them better, how they can do something a little bit better. Because everyone's on a journey. Everyone starts at different levels. You have people who start with no skills. You've got people who've been in this for like 10 years. But along the way, there's everyone in between. So don't think that the information that you're writing is not useful to anyone else. Okay? That's kind of called imposter syndrome, where you don't think that you're good enough to write for someone else, but there's always somebody who can get some information out of your content. Oh, there we go. Okay, so when you're writing content, you need to be doing stuff like competitor analysis. Okay, so if you've got a topic, then you need to Google that topic, find out who already ranks for that. Maybe take the first 3 items that come on page 1, read their articles, see what they're focusing on, see what their topics are, and craft your own content to match that particular topic. Don't copy them, but use it to craft some content that hits all these key points that they're covering, and then try and find a gap as well. 2 or 3 things that's not in those top 3 contents that you can then add as a value. So having good content, if you want to compete, if you want to get up in the ranks, you're going to have to beat these ones. And having awesome content is just one part of that. Link building is the other one, and this is where it gets really difficult. You could take these 3 articles, and you can write a fantastic article of your own, completely unique, that covers all the stuff that these 3 do, and even more, but then you've got to get the word out, okay? So as well as analyzing the content, you need to analyze what's called backlinks. So who's linking to these pages? And you can do that using a free tool. This is Ahref, I think. And I've got all the links. I'll put the links up on Meetup afterwards. But we can take, that's the very first one here. We can take the URL of the first one, go through this backlink checker, and then we get this free information. So it's the first 100 backlinks. That's other sites that are linking to that #1 article. Okay. Now, there's lots of information here, but really you're probably going to want to look at the traffic here. Maybe the traffic. So that's telling you that the third one down, it's kind of generating around about 15 links to that one. So have a look up and down the traffic. And what you want to do is once you've written your content, and it's amazing, it's better than the other ones, once you've posted it, what you want to do is try and get in contact with these people who are already linking to that same article. Get in contact with the site owner, get in contact with maybe the blog owner, and just say, hey, I've noticed you've linked to this particular item here, which is fantastic, and I've written this additional article, and it also covers all these 3 things, 5 things, 10 things in your article. I also offer these additional 5 things. Would you be willing to link out to my article, to replace this one here? It's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be a fancy email, but if you can do that, maybe just send it 3 or 4 times, because people miss emails, so don't just send things once. And if you can do that times 10, times 20, or for the first 100 for those, then you're starting to build up your backlinks to your content. And if your content is better than the one that they're already linking to, then you have a higher chance of them actually inserting that link in there, which is going to help boost your rankings for those. So it's a little bit of a twofold approach, a little bit of analyzing the existing topics that are out there, and then it's also trying to get those people who are already linking to the article to link to your article instead. Because backlinks are still pretty important in the whole algorithm there. So this is a great little tool from Ahref. Now you can get more, so there's 400 backlinks there, but this is the free tool. It just limits it to 100 backlinks. I think there's a limit to the number of searches you can do per day as well. But it's free, and it's a great place to start. Okay, so if you're getting a bit stuck as to what topics to look for or what keywords to look for your target audience, start typing in some keywords that are relevant to them, okay? And what you want to do here, so there's the original search term that I've done is kitty litter. It's probably one of the worst because it's very generic, but kitty litter. But if you notice that Google also drops down this list, okay? So these are the other most popular and relevant search terms that other people who also typed in kitty litter are searching for. So if you're looking to get topics, keywords, ideas, don't dismiss those. Write them down, put them in a spreadsheet, and then Google them as well, and then see what top 3 articles are on those. And you're starting broadening the amount of topics, broadening the amount of keywords that you're using and that you can use with your audience for those. And then you're starting to think about topic ideas around all these different ones. So for example, if you're just doing kitty litter, you might not have thought to target, kitty litter mat, for example. So that could be another keyword phrase. Then you search that and then you have a look for the relevant one. So do that 4 or 5 times to get kind of a broad map of keywords and key phrases that people are actually searching for. Now, another way to do this as well is for each of those phrases that you type in, if you scroll down the page a little bit, you'll come to this little section here in the Google search results page. It's called People Also Ask. And as well as, it's similar to this one. So this is kind of limited to keywords, whereas the People Also Ask is more about kind of questions that people are typing in. And this is absolute gold mine. If you're looking to generate blog topic ideas or content topic ideas, then this is actually what people are typing in. So you want to try, and grab this information, have a look at what content is coming up in the top 3 places for those. And that's going to give you guys some ideas as well as to what content to target, and how to beat the existing stuff that's in there as well. But this stuff is really, really great. Can I use kitty litter to soak up water? Can I use cat litter in the garden? These might not be the things that pop into your head when you're doing your initial keyword searches for your target market. And people do search on really weird stuff, but it's what people are searching for. And Google's giving you that information for free. So it's worthwhile just taking that and using that as ideas for content. Another way of finding relevant topics is this website. It's called Answer the Public, answerthepublic.com. And it's a really, really great website, and it gives a whole lot of great information for free as well. So when you are using this, you put a keyword, your keyword phrases down, just same as you do in Google. Make sure that you select the country. It defaults it to the US, I believe. So have a look through and make sure it's on Australia, if that's where your target audience is, and then click on search. And what you're going to get back is this kind of wheel visualization of information. So this is what people are searching for across all the search engines. It's not really Google specific, it's across all the search engines. So this one here is kitty litter again. I've zoomed out this part here, but in general, the wheel covers topics like when, which, who, why, are, will, where, how, what, and can. That's like the keywords that people are typing from. But if you're reading around some of these, you can see like which kitty litter is best, which is best for kitting, which kitty litter box, who invented kitty litter. Yeah, and this is not random stuff. This is actually what people are searching on. So if you've got your niche, if you've got your target audience nailed down, you'll have these keywords that are associated with them. You can start typing it in here and see exactly all the stuff that people are asking for. Can kitty litter make you sick? And if you do this for 2 or 3 times with a bunch of keywords, you're going to come up with hundreds of ideas. And not all of them are going to work for you. So just kind of cherry pick the ones that you think are probably the most important, that's appealing to your target market's problems or aspirations, and then go and Google that particular phrase, see what top 3 articles come up, do the research, write a better article, find the backlinks, try and promote it. It's kind of a revision there. So the first one is questions. Then the next one is prepositions. So that's how keywords are related to each other, because people don't always type in questions for Google. They can just type in particular keywords. So you might find that an extra few keywords are popping up that you hadn't thought about. So this one here, it covers is, without, with, can, near, for, to. So for example, the word without, so there we go, kitty litter without dust, or kitty litter no track, or kitty, whatever that is. Kitty litter no clumping. So you might get additional keywords like clumping that you might had not associated before. And then you can pull that out and kind of put them together with more topics. Now, there's also another couple, I've not included them. There's a couple called comparison and related as well. So kind of 4 lots of free information. Again, it's a limited service because it's free. So I think you can only do 2 or 3 searches a day, and then it resets it. Or, of course, you can upgrade to the pro account. But I use this all the time. I'm always amazed about the stuff that people are searching for. You can get some really, if you want to go for like the craziest stuff, that can actually produce some of the best results. Because a lot of SEO people, they'll go for the most relevant, the most important, the most high ticket topics. But if you go for like the craziest stuff, like the one before, like who invented kitty litter, and if you write that, then you can actually find that those kind of weirder topics can help rank you a little bit more for that. Okay. Okay. So part of this SEO copywriting, part of managing the content, is understanding how your customers are searching for that content. And Answer the Public and the Google stuff, it does a fairly good job at doing that. But you need to know that people have different, what they call search intentions. So there's 4 types of keyword groups when we're talking about intentions. That's the way that people are searching. So the first one is a navigational intent, and that means that they are looking for a specific website. They're looking to go somewhere. Okay. The next one is informational intent. So they're looking for an answer to a question. Okay, so they've got a question in their mind and they want to know what everyone else thinks is the answer. They've got investigational intent. So that's when they've honed on something specific and they're researching. So they're in research mode. They're looking to get more information about it. So they might be looking to buy something or purchase a service or something. And then there's transactional intent, and that's where they're looking to actually buy something for there. So that's kind of 4 rough silos as to the way that people are searching. And it's good to know these things because it's going to change the way that you write the article. It's going to change the way you have your titles, for example. So in these silos here, for the navigational intent, so if people are looking to go somewhere, they're generally looking for brand names. So Nike, Adidas, Quilton, all that sort of stuff. They're generally using the word find, where, or how do I log in to somewhere. Okay, so if you are trying to target your customer's navigational intent, then you want to be using words like find and where in your titles so it gets picked up on. Similarly for informational, people looking for additional information on stuff for a question, and these are the top words that people tend to use when they're in that kind of informational intent, when they're searching stuff. So things like tips, guide, how-to, instructions, recipe, okay, so they can get the information back. So you want to be using these types of keywords somewhere in your title so that it's matching your users' intentions as to what the information they're trying to get back. Investigational, we've got reviews, testimonials, comparisons, or vice versa type stuff. And transactional, which is the buy stuff. So, buy, price, what's affordable, how you contact, or particular product names. So it's really important to understand what people's intent are for the information that they're trying to get at, because it will change the way that you write an article, and it will change the way that you have your title as well. Okay. Anyone here can think of any SEO myths? So something that people think they have to do in the SEO world that isn't really true.
Giving money to AdWords.
Giving money to AdWords is
ads now.
so giving money to ads is going to boost your search results. Anyone else can think of any?
What about the meta tags now? How important are
They are not hugely important now. They are like the meta description is probably the most important one because that's what comes up in the search results. So that's a little box that comes up underneath the link. It's not important for the results. It's more important from a human point of view. That's what's going to grab people's attention. So you've got that little bit of copy, the 140 characters or something, to kind of sell somebody the reason why they should open the link.
But Google ignores what's in there in terms of training.
Largely, metadata is not used anyway. It was dropped quite a few years ago for that. It's all about the quality and the content of the actual content, mostly. Anyone else? No? Okay, I'm going to run through some myths. Word count. So a lot of people think that word count matters. Google have come out and said, no, it does not. So you've got a lot of people that say an ideal content, bulk content should be 2,000 words or over 300 words, something like that. That's absolute rubbish. Google have come out to say it doesn't matter if it's a couple of paragraphs or if it's a 20,000 page document. It's about the quality and the relevance of that content and how it then relates to the target audience for those. So you can have some wonderful snippets of ideas that are just a page long and it's absolute gold to the people, the target market, or you can have, like 20,000 words that's just general, it's just mishmash and, nobody really cares. So Google has said that word count doesn't matter. It's the quality of the content and how it relates to your target audience. Here's another one. Duplicate content will penalize my rankings. This is a big one. A lot of people still believe this one, and Google have come out to say no. They understand that there might be duplicate content out there. Products, for example, you've got categories, you've got tag archives, things like that. So Google said, no, not really. Duplicate content, we're not that bothered about that. What they tend to do is if they find duplicate copies, then Google will use its AI to try and figure out who is the original reference to that. And they basically give all the SEO juice to that person. If it's the wrong person then, and it's you, then you can have a debate with them, and try and get in contact with the author. And there's legal ways that you can change that if someone's stolen your stuff. But as far as Google is concerned, duplicate content, they try and find the original, owner, and they just give the SEO to that. Everyone else kind of just doesn't get anything. So you don't get duplicate, you don't get penalized at all for having duplicate content. SEO Myths is Google respects the canonical URLs. So canonical URLs, so if you've maybe got 3 or 4 different topics, blog posts, all kind of related, but you want Google to just index and show this one because you want them to show that one and not this one down here, then you put something called a canonical URL. And it means it's like the master URL. This is like the one place to go for the information. Google does not care. So if you want Google to rank this post over here rather than that one over there, so maybe your main post rather than a category or tag archive, then Google doesn't care. You can put it in, but Google just goes, nah, if that one's more relevant in the tag or category, I'm going to show that one in the results. So don't waste your time. Domain age. So the actual age of your domain. So if you just bought a brand new domain, just say you bought a brand new .au domain that was launched last month, and your competitors had the domain for 25 years, then the actual age of the domain has no relevance on the search results. Now, it does have relevance in the fact that they've been around for 20 years and they've produced 20 years of content, which is good, and that's good, but that's got nothing to do with domain age. So Google don't have any metrics on domain age, which means if you want to get straight into a niche, you can buy a new domain and rank in that niche straight away. So you don't have to be buying a domain that's been out there for 25 years. Because I know there's a lot of websites where you can buy and trade domain names, and a lot of people like to buy sites that have got like high PR or the older because they think that's going to be a ranking factor, but it isn't. Domain authority, this is similar. So it's kind of saying, this is a metric that's kind of used by the SEO tools that are out there. So for example, SEMrush, Moz, for example, these are big services that you can buy. They've got their own, what they call a domain authority. So what they try and do is they go through all the website, they go through all the content, and they try and give it a number between 0 and 100 to see how good or how quality the information is. Google doesn't have that metric either. They don't care. So this is like an external thing that these SEO services have come up with. And while it might help you focus your attention on the rough quality of your website as how it appears to your target audience, it's got nothing to do with the actual search results in Google. So don't worry about it from that point of view. High bounce rate. So does everyone know what bounce rate is? So that's when somebody comes into your website to read an article, and it's the time it takes for them to go somewhere else. Okay. Now, having a high bounce rate, there's a lot of SEO specialists that say, oh, that's a really bad thing. So if you talk to an SEO specialist, they'll ask you for your Google Analytics, and a lot of them will come back and say, oh, no, look, your bounce rate is like 98%. That's no good. Well, in fact, Google doesn't really care about the bounce rate. They actually find that there's some valid reasons why some people would come in and then go out. So they might be searched for something else. So they might land on a page, they know it's not that page, but there's a link to what they actually want to go to, and they click on it. Or they might have been there before and just click back out and find something else. So Google understands there's good reasons that people bounce in and out, so that has no relevance on any search results at all. It's probably a good thing to try and yourself to lower it, because that means that more people are on your website, more time they're reading content. But as far as a ranking factor, it doesn't. And here's another one. Is SEO results take 3 months. And this is kind of a generic SEO service standard. So if you talk to somebody, an SEO specialist, about how long will it take to see results, it's a fairly valid question. The kind of common industry answer is 90 days or 3 months. And it just doesn't work like that at all. It's a really complicated subject, how much effort you put into it. If you are, for example, if you are spinning yourself up in a brand new niche and you've got a few competitors, then you can start ranking number 1, 2, or 3 pretty much straight away if you're hammering out good quality, relevant content. It's really as quickly as the Google search engine can pick up on your content, it's going to make those changes. Again, if you're trying to go after a well-established niche, if you've got some big competitors in there, it's really going to be depending on how long it takes you to do that content analysis. So looking at the top 3 or 5, banging out some more content that's more relevant, that's got more value. But more importantly, it's the time it's going to take for the backlinks as well. Not everyone is going to respond in every single industry, with, oh yeah, you will just replace that and put it in. Lots of other big companies, so maybe the companies that you want to get backlinks from, the media, for example, government, even military, education. Some of these people, the process to change a website can take months to change a page because it's got to go to this person, then that person, then this person. So it's not as easy, for everyone across every industry. It's very, very complicated. So if someone comes back and says it's going to take you 3 months to get results, that's not true. It just depends. And this is why selling SEO and selling marketing is very, very difficult. Because when you're selling a service like that, people are always going to say, I'm going to pay you money. I want to know when I'm going to see results. And marketing SEO, you kind of say, well, just have to play it, month by month and try and put in some KPIs and see how it goes back. But you can't promise anyone anything like that. Another one, keywords in the URL are important. So Google have come straight and said, nope, not important at all. So it's good for humans, because when humans can see a website URL, like, I don't know, sydneybestumbrellas.au, people know that's about Sydney, it's about umbrellas, it's about the best ones. So it's a human thing. But for Google's point of view, they don't analyze, or it's not important to them about the keywords in the URLs. So don't get stuck up about choosing a URL just so it can get up in the rankings. It's all about the content. I think it's the last one. Blogging every day for site freshness. So again, this is another kind of common myth that a lot of SEO people will spin out. So this whole idea goes back to keeping your website active. So the whole idea that if your website isn't updated all the time, then Google sees that as being like an old and irrelevant and doesn't rank it at all. Now, there was a Google search engine algorithm update roughly around about 2011, I think it was. And they did have a metric that measured how much a website changed. The idea being that if someone's writing more content, then it's more relevant. But they soon realized that, people were taking advantage of that and just like hammering out stupid content, 100 articles a day. So that got dropped pretty quickly. So you don't have to blog every day. You don't have to keep your website up to date. It's not measured by Google, and it doesn't have any impact on the rankings. It's all about the content and the quality of the content that you're producing. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, guys. Well, do you think that any of the others were things that were previously true, but now that change has come about recently as well?
That's a great question. So were some of the previous stuff true at some point, and now are irrelevant? Yes. So in the early days of Google, when they were looking through websites, they were looking just for keywords, basically. So, and this is where this whole keyword stuffing thing came out. So, people would put, at the bottom of their plumbing, they'll put like Sydney plumbing, Parramatta plumbing in Sydney, broken plumbing, all the keywords right at the bottom, and then Google was like, well, that's not what it's about, and then, yeah, exactly. So they changed it. And then people were hiding stuff. They put like white text, or they put it in like the meta description, so it's still stuffing it. So it's like a constant battle. There's always people who are trying to, find the gray areas, and try and, get there first. It's called black hat SEO.
Yeah. I recall that they were changing as well the CSS to make it white.
Yeah.
To trick the bots.
Yeah. That's a very human thing. People's eyes won't see it, but Google sees it because it's there. Those are black hat SEO techniques for those. Things like link farms as well. So we know that backlinks are important. So back in 2012, 2014, people would build up these micro networks, okay? And then they'd spin up like lots of content for a really particular niche. And people would go there and they'd link to it. So then they'd link from that to their content. So and they were called content networks. For those, but Google came a bit wise to that and said, well, if you're coming from a content farm, rather than actually give you SEO alerts, we're going to penalize you. So that was a big update for them. Okay, other one, social signals help rankings. Not so true. Probably a good thing you've got a lot of followers, but it doesn't directly relate back into the results for those. Okay, so this is a WordPress meetup, so I felt obliged to put some WordPress stuff in here. So there's 3 big SEO plugins that you should probably use at least one on your website. So the first one is Yoast. It's probably the most popular. I think it's still the most popular plugin downloaded from the plugin repository. It's certainly been around the longest and probably was the first SEO plugin for those. It got a bit of a stick a few years ago. They changed the interface. They made it all bright colors and they put lots of advertising to upgrade to the pro version. And they lost a lot of users with that, so they've dialed it back a bit. But Yoast comes with a free plan, but it also comes with a pro plan. Okay, but as well as a pro plan, if you've got something like WooCommerce, or if you want to do like local business SEO, you've got to buy additional add-ons just for those particular things for those. Now, a lot of people are die-hard Yoast people, and that's fine, and they pay for that. However, there are other options. So the next one is Rank Math. Now, I've not personally used this in anger. I've installed it and played around with it, but I hear very, very, very good things from other people, other colleagues who use this. Again, it's got a free version that you can play around with, but really, if you want to take SEO seriously, you really should be buying a pro version of any of these, because it gives you all the options.
Can we try them all together, or that would be silly?
Not all together at the same time.
Yeah.
No, if you want to evaluate them, install one, play around with it for a couple of months, install another. Yeah, because they overlap stuff, so you don't want to do that. Yeah, so very, very good things from Rank Math. It's really come up in the last few years. It's got a really great interface. Each of these tools have slightly different things. Like one of them will have like a content analysis. Another one will pick up on keywords. One of them maybe use a little bit of artificial intelligence to analyze your content, stuff like that. So it is really dependent on what you want from them. The last one is SEO Press. That's the one that I use on all my websites. The reason I use this is because the pro version includes everything that Yoast has in their pro and add-ons for a quarter of the price. So it's about 59 or 60 bucks a year US dollars. Whereas Yoast, if you were to buy the pro version and all the add-ons to WooCommerce and local SEO, you're probably talking about 150, 170 US dollars a year for that. So you get exactly the same stuff with this one, which is why I buy this. So I use the pro version on that one. And the reason you want to use these is because it gives you the ability to change all the stuff in your post content, your pages and your blogs. So it's going to analyze your title. It's going to allow you to specify exactly what Google sees when you get the results in the results page. So that's the meta description that we talked about for those. It'll analyze your post content as well. So look for the keywords. For example, I think SEOPress has a link finder. So if you're writing an article, it will suggest other blogs that you've got within your site to link into it. Because it's really important that you do internal linking. Because, if you don't have pages that link to all the other pages, then Google basically crawls through pages. So if you've got what they call orphaned posts that aren't linked to anything, then there's no way Google can find that. So a lot of these plugins will do that as well. Now, there is one that I haven't mentioned. It's called All-in-One SEO, AIOS, for that. And again, it's an older one like Yoast, but for me, I don't feel it's got enough of the goodies. It's not been kept update enough as comparison with these three ones here. So if you don't have an SEO one already, have a look at Yoast, have a look at Rank Math, have a look at SEO Press and see which one caters for your needs, because they do have kind of several different features each. Okay, so just to round it all up, last couple of slides, I believe. Just some general SEO content. Headlines, make sure your headlines match your content. Similar to magazines and newspapers. If you get a headline on a newspaper, and you buy a newspaper and you sit down, the content's got nothing to do with the headline, you can be pretty miffed. So make sure your headlines match your content. Write conversationally, just if you're speaking to somebody as a one-to-one, especially true if you're trying to do those kind of search intents where people are looking for answers to stuff. Increase your readability. So we're talking about using your subheadings. Use your H2s, your H3s, your H4 properly to kind of break down the article. Make sure you use some bullet points if that's required. Leave some margin and padding between that just to increase the readability for people. Even things like, add a table of contents if it's a big article so people can jump up and down and just find the specific stuff that they want. Short paragraphs, white space. Use freaking awesome mega power words. It's a human thing. People like these kind of big power words. But if you're writing titles, you want to have like a big, juicy title rather than kind of a lame one, because that's what people are looking at. And this is what kind of is going to jump out from the title and the rankings. So title and meta, really, really important. This is where you start to use your awesome big mega words in your copy down there. Link to internal content, I've just talked about that. If you don't link out, then Google can't spider through and they can't find your content. So super important to do. Last one, I think. Alt text for images is still a big thing. You know, people search a lot for images. Image search is huge. Like it's kind of like you got your text search in Google, you've got your YouTube videos, but then you've got images. It's kind of like the third biggest search. Yeah. Accessibility is big. So make sure you got your alt texts for all your images in there. And if you got one of these SEO plugins, they'll tell you. There'll be warnings down the side. Easy to find content, so make sure that when people are navigating your website, they can find stuff. So have like a category, have a tag archive, have your search there, link to other articles, have sidebars and stuff like that. Make sure people can find your content. Make sure you use related words. So we talked a lot about keywords and keyword phrases, but try and find alternative ones as well. So synonyms and related content as well. Don't just stick with those 3 or 4 keywords that you think your target audience wants. Expand it a little bit more. Research your competition, we told you that's important. You know, for the top ones that are appearing, you need to understand why they're appearing as number 1, 2, and 3, and try and replicate that. Make sure your content is relevant to your audience, so don't just write content for the sake of writing content. And research the other 2 bits that I haven't had time to talk about. So your technical SEO, which is the structure of your website, how it's all put together, and link building as well. There's a lot more to link building than just what I showed you how to get those links from the top articles. A lot more to link building. So do your research for those ones, and then all that encompasses the basic of SEO. There we go. You guys had a few questions throughout, which is great. But if you've got any other questions, fire away and I'll try my best to answer them. Yes, I can see your hand itching to get up.
Well, so while you were, in fact, when you started talking,
yeah,
I thought, all right, I'll just go and check my own website. So we created an organization called Technorama. I knew when we created it that there was a Swiss science museum called Technorama.
Yeah.
I figured far enough away that that wasn't going to be a conflict. It's a good name for us.
Yeah.
I have done no search optimization on our site at all. It has low traffic. It doesn't get updated terribly often, but I think it's high value. And I wrote most of it. It's good. So I put in the word Technorama, and the top 6 hits that I got were for our Australian site.
Awesome.
Which leads me to wonder a couple of things. One, so I checked under Google and I checked under DuckDuckGo. To what extent is the response that I get related to who I am and where I am?
Right.
So is the fact that I searched and got a whole lot of responses related to the fact that somehow the universe knows who I am, and that might be more interesting to me than a site in Switzerland?
Sorry. So let me paraphrase that. So the question you're asking...
A whole heap of things in there, Will.
Yep. So your question you're asking is are the search results that you get different to search results that other people get? Is that fair?
That would be one of the questions.
One question is yes. So if you, Google started this personalization probably about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, they basically look at everything you do and they store everything you do. They are big on scraping content. When you're searching for something, the results that you get are tailored to your previous browsing experience. They're related to the cookies that are on your machine. So every time Google does a search, it's looking in your browser history, it's looking in your cookies to see what's on your machine. It's looking at your web host, it's looking at your ISP to see where you're located as well. So that's why if you're living in Parramatta and you're living in Brisbane, you're going to get, if you search the same things, you're going to get different results. You get stuff that's near you, and you'll get stuff that's near you. You'll get some stuff that's related on some searches that you've done the last couple of weeks in your browser history, and you'll get different ones. So yes, the information that you're getting is what's called personalized search results for those. And again, it's something that's quite difficult to kind of get your head around in SEO. But if you are trying to go after a generic audience, then the best thing to try and do is to use an incognito or private tab and have a look at the results that are coming through there. Because that should not be filtered by your browsing history. You might still get stuff that's coming through from your location. So again, you might want to invest in a VPN, in a VPN, so you can anonymize where you are to get kind of true results for those. But yeah, it's just one of these things. Google grabs all this information and they're wanting to help you. They're wanting to give you stuff that you're looking for, you have been looking for. But when you try to do SEO, that can be difficult because the results you're getting back is kind of twisted for that. So
I think even if you're incognito and you're on a VPN, it's still going to grab your account. So it's going to make decisions based on the fact that it's English or whatever language it is.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a kind of, sort of reference set of search results.
There's not. So a VPN and incognito is probably the best that you can do to get as close to a generic search result that other people are probably going to get for that. You had another part of the question?
There was another part of the question.
Yeah.
I can wait and see if anybody...
No, that's okay.
Well, okay. So the next thing, and I know I've asked you about this online. When I set up the site, I set it up as the default. So every page gets a number. And I have been told, and I think you corroborated, that no, having text-based URLs for each post is a better idea.
Yep.
And would improve your ranking.
Okay. So I said that keywords and URLs are not a ranking factor. However, readability and usability, that comes under that particular scenario. So using numbers and URLs is not friendly because people don't know where it is. So while Google won't pull out the keywords and do that as a ranking factor, it will try and find a relevance between what your page title is, URL title is, and how it perceives that people will be able to find your stuff and navigate through your site. If you've got P equals TT all over the place, it's difficult for people, if they land on a URL, to kind of know what it is, or if they see a URL in the browser, to know exactly where they're going to. So yeah, it's recommended that you don't use the numbers and you go for a text-based.
So why is that the default for WordPress if in fact...
Exactly. Why? But we don't know. We don't know. It still defaults it to the P equals.
So a placeholder for a future topic would be, how do you migrate your site as painlessly as possible from numbers to words?
Yep. It's going to be painful because you're going to have to put in redirects for everything.
Future topic.
Yeah. It's probably something that you want to analyze. It's probably something you want to talk to a virtual assistant about, or somebody else that can spend that time, because really it's not going to be worth your time going through and renaming them all, but it is going to be worthwhile your time going through and mapping them all to what it wants to do. Then you might want to farm that job out to someone else, because it's going to be a long haul.
Your phone.
Yeah, great question. Anyone else?
If you've got WooCommerce on your site, so I've got, I guess you could say it's an e-commerce site. I'm not selling anything, I'm just doing product comparison using WooCommerce shopping. Are there particular things I should be doing differently than if I'm just writing a blog post?
Yes. So it kind of goes back to these intent. So if you've got, so I'll just put my contact details. If you've got a WooCommerce shop, you're basically trying to sell something to somebody. So their intent is going to be different than somebody who's looking for just general information or whatever. So you need to tailor your content towards things like objections to buy. So, if someone puts something of yours in their cart, what are the reasons that they wouldn't follow through? So write articles about that. So counter around their buyer objections as well. But then expand on the different content that's related to your particular product that you're trying to sell. Highlight the benefits of purchasing whatever it is, a product or a service that they would get, because people are looking for that sort of stuff. The reason that your product exists is probably to solve something in some way. So you want to be highlighting the problems out there that people are not aware of, and then highlighting your products as a solution for that. Okay, so there's a kind of marketing sales funnel. It's called ADA. So the top of the funnel are people who are aware that there's a problem out there but they're not kind of actively looking at a solution. There's then a kind of intent. So people are aware there's a problem. They know they've got a problem. They know there are solutions out there, and that's they're kind of looking at it. There's then D, which is desire, and that's coming down the funnel. So that's people know that there's a solution out there. They've researched the solution. They've come across your solution, and they know that you have yours. And then there's A, and so they actually want it. They want that sort of thing. So that's again the sales funnel. So you need to kind of visualize where people are. So people who don't know where your product is, top of the funnel, you need to be creating content that tells them that there's a problem out there, and, and there's lots of solutions for that. And here you've got this solution there. And then also content for people who are researching, those particular types of products for those. And you're going to try and kind of push them down that funnel towards the end. So different types of SEO topics that you want to target people in their different journey through the sales funnel. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Cool. Anyone else? Okay, I think we'll give that a wrap. So thank you very much, guys. We have next month, back here again, I'm going to talk about WordPress automation. So I'll talk about Zapier, talk about Integromat, talk about Uncanny Automator, I think it's. So different ways you can automate things in WordPress. Okay, so hopefully see you guys next month.
I need to dash, but eventually I'm still interested to help you if you need.
I am interested. Sorry I haven't gotten back to you.
No, that's all right, because I understand that you were also unwell with your booster.
Yeah, I've had a few things that just kind of knocked me for six. But yes,
that's all
I will
right.
get in contact with you. So
That's
thank you so much for that.
So you just give me a call?
I'll give you a call.
Okay.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Anyway, for a question, Will.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to industry first